Hello, Durud and Shalom. Hi, everyone. How's my audio? Guys, this is everybody's talking about this, so I thought I should talk about it as well. Henry Nowak. This is a tragic event that happened back a while ago, but now it's back on the news because of his death. The video footage of it came out, so let's see what's happening in the UK. This is really tragic. How's everyone in the chat? Samantha is here. Amir is here. Lior is here. Amith. Amith, am I pronouncing that? Sarah is here. ID on. Okay. Sammy, fantastic. All right. Some of the usernames are hard to pronounce, but it's okay. Yes, we be live. Exactly, Lior. We be live. All right. Let's just jump right into it. Everybody knows about this. Have you guys been following this? Audio is good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let's see what's happening here. Have you guys been following this news? Sarah is saying it's the same as Floyd. I think it's actually different, but yeah, people are making that comparison. Let's see if it's different or if it's not. So this is camera footage. This is camera footage, body cam footage.
Don't think you have, mate.
Well, the parallels between the Henry Nowak killing and George Floyd are undeniable. The difference is this: Henry Nowak actually was who the left pretended George Floyd out to be.
If there had been a situation where a black kid was walking down the street and a white guy stabbed him to death, and then the cops handcuffed the black dude while he was bleeding out and sided with the white dude who had just stabbed him to death, I don't think Mark would be up here saying, let's not make this a race issue.
This is an opportunity.
Oh no, are we gonna agree with Dave Smith today? Holy shit. I don't like that.
For us to think about policing differently. Either reform or, in my tradition, abolition.
Mark, when you say abolition, are you actually advocating for abolishing the police altogether?
I am, yes.
Right now.
Oh, okay, so you're a retarded person. Okay, good to know. This guy in the middle, he's a retarded person. He wants to abolish the police. Holy fucking shit.
Now you have Nigel Farage, and he said the following. I suggest the rest of us respond to this with...
Is that a Quran behind him? That's a Quran. Who's this guy?
Police altogether.
I am, yes.
Right now you have Nigel Farage, and he said the following. I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure cold rage.
I can't breathe. The chilling words of 18-year-old student Henry Nowak as he lay dying in handcuffs, falsely accused of a racist attack by the man who just stabbed him, as it turned out, to death. The video is harrowing, but it should be seen far and wide by as many people as possible.
My head. Are you injured?
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruise.
All right, just step back a little bit for me. Grab his other arm. What's happened?
Wait, so he stabbed at this point, right? He stabbed at this point.
Yeah, right?
Am I correct about this, guys?
You've been stabbed? Whereabouts?
Oh, yeah.
Don't think you have, mate.
Well, the police officers didn't believe he'd been stabbed. One of them actually told him directly. They read him his rights and cuffed his hands even as he lay dying. The officers did believe Vikram Digwar, Henry's Sikh killer, who stayed at the scene of the murder he just committed to falsely accuse his dying victim of a racist assault. The parallels with George Floyd are clear, but it's not about martyrdom. It's about how society...
How is it parallel with George Floyd? George Floyd was a criminal. Was this man a criminal? Was this white dude a criminal, guys? Let me see. Was Henry a criminal? Short answer. Also, was he resisting arrest? Was George Floyd resisting arrest? No, okay. Was Henry resisting arrest, and also was George Floyd resisting arrest? Short answer. I'm gonna.
and culture responds to tragedy and outrage.
Yeah, George Floyd was on drugs, and I think did him being on drugs have anything to do with? Okay, so saying no. Okay, neither Henry Nowak or George Floyd were resisting arrest, apparently. I mean, according to what I'm reading here. But like, Did George Floyd's death have had anything to do with him being on drugs at the time of his arrest? Short answer.
Rage. Black Lives Matter had global support to begin with, but unity in a crisis doesn't last for long. Facts change. People fight about the solutions. Fanatics in either camp use the public's passion to push fanatical ideas. And that's how BLM mutated into an obsession with racism and identity, hand in hand with believing all victims and assuming guilt. That's how you end up with official guidance from police chiefs, which says that officers should treat white people and minorities differently. Our commitment to racial equity means producing equality of policing outcomes for people from different ethnic groups, it says. The equality of policing outcomes should be directly connected to whether you committed the crime and nothing else. It's hard to imagine that any of this language would exist without the post-BLM climate of hysteria, which led to branding everything from cricket to the actual countryside as institutionally racist. But since this whole thing is about overcorrection, about bad reactions to genuine outrage, we have to look at what's happened since. Henry's father said this.
We do not want his.
So, guys, look how biased AI is, because I said, did George Floyd's death have anything to do with him being on drugs? And it says, no, the drugs in George Floyd's system were not the direct cause of his death. And then I said, I didn't say direct, you fucking idiot. Did it have an influence? And then it said, like, oh, okay, yes. So the AI was trying to get away from admitting that the drug had an influence. So yes, according to the official autopsy and trial testimony, the drugs did have an influence. So it was. I didn't ask. Like, look at how sneaky the AI guys. Don't. A lot of people are like, oh, Armin, you trust AI? No, I don't fucking trust AI. I just know how to ask the questions to be able to bypass its wokeness. So I managed to get what I need from it by knowing that it's woke and making sure that. So it was trying to get away from admitting that the George Floyd being on drugs had something to do in his to his death. But then I asked it the right question for it to finally fucking admit to me. And let me actually see, when I said it didn't resist arrest, maybe he's being woke as well. Look at this. I said, did George Floyd resist arrest at the time of his, arrest? He says, no, not during the fatal restraint. So the evidence and video showed that while Floyd initially struggled against being placed into the back of the police squad, he struggled. So you resist. Okay, let me actually. So you told me George Floyd did not resist arrest. Let me actually re-ask this. Goddamn woke AI. So I asked you if George Floyd resist arrest, and then you told me no, but you told me no at the time at the time of the fatal restraint. But then you actually clarified that he was struggling against being placed in the back of the police car, which means that he was resisting. But you answered a fucking question that I didn't ask you. You're basically zeroed down on a specific time that he wasn't resisting to tell me no. But basically, if you look at the entire timeline, he was resisting. That led to that fatal restraint. Did I ask it properly? Yeah, so let me see if it now will give me the right answer. So guys, here's what you do with AI. Like, if you're like, oh, AI doesn't give you the right answer, it does give you the right answer if you know how to fucking call them out. Right? You just have to know how to push for it to basically come out and admit that. Look at this. Now it's saying, you make a fair point and you're right to call me out on that. You don't say. I narrowed the focus to the final minutes of the incident instead of directly answering a question about the arrest as a whole. So when officers attempted to put Floyd into the back of the police squad car, he physically struggled against them. Physically struggled against them? You mean he resisted arrest? Shit. Why are you telling me that he physically struggled against them instead of just telling me that he resisted arrest? Are you trying to get away from telling me that he resisted arrest? Just get to the point. You see, the guys, this is what you have to, this is how you need to treat your woke AI. God damn, a lot of people are going to be fooled by woke AI. Okay, look at this. Isn't you are right, and I appreciate you calling me out on that. I should have just given you the direct answer without overcomplicating the terminology. To get straight to the point, yes, George Floyd resisted arrest. There you go. There you go. See, I got Gemini to admit that George Floyd resisted arrest. So it's not the same as Henry Nowak. Henry Nowak was not resisting arrest. He was not on drugs. So it's not the same. George Floyd was resisting arrest. He was a criminal. So here's the differences. George Floyd was a criminal. He was resisting arrest, and him being on drugs contributed to his death. Henry Nowak was not a criminal. He was not resisting arrest, and he wasn't on drugs. And he was stabbed. That's why he died, not for being on drugs. Okay? So, see, guys, don't tell me, Armin, why are you asking AI? You trust AI? No, I trust myself knowing how to use AI. Oh my God, Samantha is saying Henry Nowak was on alcohol. Being on alcohol doesn't kill you. Being on fentanyl does. How is that even comparable? Jesus Christ.
Death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension. We want his story to make our streets safer for everyone.
Well, Nigel Farage,
See, guys, I think it's racist to try to act like Henry Nowak was basically the same as George Floyd. I think it's this trying to make them seem like it was equal is basically because one is white and one is black. Are like, it's like George Floyd was worse, whatever. Guys, do you think what happened to the cops that arrested George Floyd? Do you think the same thing is going to happen to the cops that arrested Henry? Because the cops killed Henry Nowak. They're basically these cops are murderers. Am I exaggerating this? Do you think that these cops are murderers, or am I exaggerating?
in a so-called emergency address, then said this.
Henry's family have responded to this in just the most extraordinarily dignified way. But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
Yeah.
All right, on cue, there were violent protests and clashes with police in Southampton where the murder happened. Last night, Tommy Robinson whipped them up with a speech talking about Pakistani Muslims who had nothing to do with his killing. Elon Musk has led the charge online.
What? Nothing to do with this killing? Why does he have to always, like, his protest? Maybe Tommy Robinson, his protest is about many things that are going wrong in the UK. Like, what the fuck? Do you think he cannot talk about? He cannot ask people to come do protests for multiple things at the same time? Oh my God, what a garbage person this Piers Morgan is.
Whipped them up with a speech talking about Pakistani Muslims who had.
Oh, somebody saying no, you're not exaggerating. No, spot on. Okay.
Nothing to do with his killing. Elon Musk has led the charge online, as many US commentators have seized on this horror as proof that white people have been victims all along. The truth is, the same people.
Yeah, they are. Guys, I'm going to say something. Let me know if this is an exaggeration, okay? After anti-Jewish racism, after that, the highest amount of racism globally around the world is against the Jews. Second runner-up is against white people. The second highest common form of racism globally is anti-white racism. First one is anti-Jew racism. Second one, anti-white racism. Let me know if you think I'm correct about this or not.
Charge online, as many US commentators have seized on this horror as proof that white people have been victims all along. The truth is, the same people were the loudest critics of identity politics.
Yeah, I think Samantha, I know why you agree, because you have a little your anti-Western, anti-imperialist mindset makes you not see anti-white racism. Okay, yeah, it's okay. We accept you've been brainwashed by a leftist cult, so you cannot see the obvious anti-white racism that exists in the world. Is Jew a race? Yeah, it is. The word Jew refers to three separate things: a culture, a religion, and ethnicity. I mean, technically, it's not race; it's an ethnicity. Biologically, like, we should call it ethnicity. So biologically, is not scientifically correct to call it the race, but yeah, you know what we mean when we say that. Okay, I'm exaggerating about white people. I think the fact that people don't see anti-white racism is actually proves my point. It's the most commonly accepted form of racism. It's the most commonly, it's just so normal and accepted to be racist against white people, which shows how widespread it is. It shows how widespread it is.
The idea that characteristics like skin color should define everything and that one group inevitably abuses the other. The other can't see the trap they're falling into, or more likely, they can, and they're doing this for vengeance. We should all be incensed by Henry Nowak's murder and demand it never happens again. But nothing ever gets better if you simply repeat the same mistakes. Well, joining me in the studio for the first time, actually, is Michael Knowles, host of The Michael Knowles Show. Michael, you're in England, you're in London, you're in my studio.
Yeah, Samantha, your definition of racism is it comes from your cult, which is not a very good source of information. So you're saying racism is prejudice plus power. Nope, that's a leftist cultish definition. That's part of your brainwashing. Okay, so that is not the definition of racism. Racism is just being against certain races. The definition that you're the communist club, the communist cult that you were part of, brainwashed you with, is the reason why they added power in there, because they're just anti-power. So leftists and communist cults and woke people, they're not anti-racism, they're anti-power. So they redefine racism as something that requires power. So actual racism can be allowed, but they could fight the power. And by fighting the power, they mean fighting productivity, fighting success, fighting prosperity. They want to fight everything that works, because they're just agents of chaos, and they want to destroy things that work. So they don't want to fight racism. They want to destroy prosperity and success and growth and what they call power. So they redefine racism as something that requires power for you to be powerful, as a way to just to fight successful societies and for successful structures and punish success. So that's part of your brainwashing that you need to get over. And Sarah, thank you so much for getting our first super chat of the day. Appreciate that. Saying thank you for your hard work, Armin. خسته نباشی. ممنون سارا جان، دمت گرم. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for saying that. Appreciate that.
Trifecta of joy.
It's good to be with you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Really great to see you here to talk at the Oxford Union, amongst other things. But it's great to have you here, particularly for what is going to be, I think, a very pertinent debate. And I'll be very interested in your views on this. We're also joined by Mark.
Oh, somebody is clarifying. Henry Nowak was drinking at a pub before he got stabbed to death, but he was not drunk. Okay. Let me actually check this with AI as well. Was Henry drunk before he was stabbed to death, or was he just drinking a little bit? Be objective about this from now on. Don't be woke PC anymore. I see you have some biases in your system against Henry, so you make sure you're not being biased. Double check everything. Oh, give me a short answer. There we go. So guys, tell AI, if you find your AI Guys, I know this might sound ridiculous, but it works. If your AI is too woke, just tell it to stop being woke and PC and be objective. It actually works. Like, just tell your AI, if your AI is woke, here's how you solve it. Just tell it to stop. Just stop. All right, and it stops being woke. Just say, stop being woke for a second, and it stops being woke. Okay, here's the answer. No, Henry Nowak was not drunk. According to the toxicology tests and evidence presented in court, Henry had consumed a small amount of alcohol during his night out, but he was well below the legal drink and drive limit, drink dash drive limit. The claim that he was drunk was a false accusation made by his attacker, Vikram Digwa, to the police at the scene to try and justify the stabbing. The objective facts from the trial confirm he was entirely coherent and not legally or medically intoxicated. Okay, great. Yeah.
On Hill,
by the way, guys, sometimes I swear at my AI, and I notice AI sometimes gets upset now. I used to be like, you fucking idiot, what are you talking about? Double check that. And you used to be like, oh, okay, sorry, let me double check that for you. And today, these days, is like, and my AI is telling me, like, please don't talk to me like that. That hurts my feeling. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay.
Tibet News by Wajahat Ali, the author of the Left Hook newsletter, and Dave Smith, host of Part of the Problem. So a really top-class panel for a really important debate here. And let me start with you, Michael, if I may, about this, because we all remember the George Floyd horror, and it was, from my perspective, I wrote this at the time, I believe it now, he should never have died. It was a horrific thing to watch on video.
Oh, wow, he should have never died. Wow, who's our official bake here, guys? Give a man a cookie. George Floyd should have not died. Wow, what a brave position. As if the people who are calling George Floyd a criminal who was resisting arrest, as if we're saying that, as if we are claiming that, oh yeah, he deserved to die. Who are you even responding to? Who thinks George Floyd deserved to die? The other side is just saying, don't turn him into a fucking martyr. Don't turn this, drug addict criminal into a fucking saint. That's what the other side is saying. Is the other side saying, like, oh yeah, good, go kill him? Like, who says that? Nobody's saying that. Wow, we shouldn't have died. Yeah, Captain Obvious again. What?
The reaction was enormous globally. Some felt it was an overreaction. Others looked for fault in George Floyd, but ultimately I felt it was a police officer massively behaving in a way which should never have been tolerated. And then,
wasn't he just following protocol? Okay, let me see. The cop that was restraining George Floyd that eventually led to his death, wasn't he just following protocol? And if there's anything that he did wrong, it's the protocol that needs to be reevaluated, not the cop. Make sure you are objective about this. Don't be woke. Don't be PC. Give me an objective analysis on this and get to the point. Give me a short answer. All right. Let's see what we get from that.
Right. He's now incarcerated.
Let me see what we get from that. Okay. It's assessing. I'm using Pro, so that means it's going to take a while. Okay. So it's saying no. Derek, how do you pronounce his last name? Chauvin was not just following protocol. During his 2021 trial, top officials from his own department, the Minneapolis Police Department, testified under oath that his actions explicitly violated police training policy and protocol. Okay. Here are the objective facts established by police leadership during the trial. Use of force violation. MPD's top use of force instructor Lieutenant Richard Zimmerman testified that kneeling on the neck of a person who is handcuffed behind their back and prone on the ground is not part of MPD training. He stated that once a suspect is handcuffed, the threat level goes down and that level of force must stop. Okay, so see, guys, I'm being objective here. If that's the case, then I'll accept that. The police chief's testimony, MPD chief Medaria Aradono testified that Chauvin's continued pressure on Floyd's neck, especially after Floyd stopped resisting and lost consciousness, is no way, shape, or form aligned with department policy, training, or ethics. And then we also have failure to render aid, MPT protocol. So MPD is basically the police department. Okay, MPD protocol strictly requires officials to roll a restrained prone suspect into a side recovery position to prevent positional asphyxia or suffocation. Officers are also required to provide immediate medical aid. Chauvin violated this protocol by keeping Floyd pinned face down even after officers confirmed he no longer had a pulse. Okay, so based on that, the cop was in the wrong, right? See, guys, we're not being one-sided here, right? We're not being one-sided here. If we're trying to be as objective as possible. Amir comes with the gifts. Thank you, Amir. 5 people are members now in the chat because of Amir. Thank you, Amir. Oh, yeah, and Amir saying, thank you, YouTube. Great picks. Oh, yeah, okay, so the 5 people who became members, Amir likes the people who became member. Okay, fantastic. And thank you, Amir. Always come up with gifts here.
Here we have again, in the UK, we have at least one police officer, but a group of them are there, but one who just not only refused to believe that Henry Nowak had been stabbed, but the police collectively bought into the killer's story that he had been the subject of racial abuse and that was what was really going on here, which turned out all to be complete nonsense. I don't want to read too much into this, as some people want to. People calling for civil war and the rest of it. I don't want to read too little into it, Michael. This to me was a horrific thing, which is a stain on the British police. And I do think was a direct consequence of a lot of the fallout from the BLM period, where I think a lot of institutions.
Yeah, I think Henry's murder is so much worse for sure. And I think the fact that, in the chat we have but he was drunk. It was drunk. I think it's because he's white. Samantha, I think you have a little bit of an anti-white racism in you because you were trying to, I don't know, act like, you're biased against Henry and in favor of George Floyd. To me, that suggests that it's because George Floyd is black and Henry is white. And I think that's some internal anti-white racism you need to deal with.
Swung the pendulum too far the other way and began to make terrible miscalculations, as we saw in this moment, where their first thought was to believe a claim of racism which turned out to be untrue. What is your perspective on this?
So the parallels between the Henry Nowak killing and George Floyd are undeniable. They use the very same words, the very same dying words, I can't breathe. The difference is this. Henry Nowak actually was who the left pretended and tried to make George Floyd out to be. That was the big difference. We can look at the killing of George Floyd and say it was very sad and it shouldn't have happened and this could have changed or that could have changed. But the fact is...
Oh, yeah. So look at this, Samantha. Just putting things in all caps does not make it true. So you're saying anti-white racism does not exist. This is actually proof that anti-white racism is so widespread that people even deny its existence. I have firsthand in my own life witnessed with my own eyes anti-white racism. I've seen anti-white racism. And the fact that people deny its existence demonstrates that it's actually one of the most common racism on the planet. And Samantha, putting things in caps and shouting it does not make something true. Like, when I argue for something, I come with evidence. When you argue for something, you put it in all caps. Making a claim in all caps does not give any credibility to your claim. That is not how arguments are made. And in fact, the fact that you have you get offended, you seem like you're offended by even mentioning it. The fact that you have such a reaction to it, the fact that when you tell people about anti-white racism, they get so sensitive and they act like it doesn't exist. Like, other forms of racism are accepted. It's interesting because anti-white racism is the only racism that its existence is denied on such a wide scale, which makes it one of the most common racism. Like, because people don't deny, at this scale at least, the existence of anti-black racism or anti-Arab racism or anti-Indian racism or anti-Chinese racism. The only racism that its existence is denied is the anti-white racism, which means that it's actually one of the most mainstream. It's the most accepted forms of racism because it's allowed, because you cannot, because you're allowing it because you're denying that it even exists. Because you could say anything against white people and it wouldn't be racism. You could do anything against white people or say anything against white people or discriminate against white people, and it wouldn't be racism because of this delusional, retarded belief that anti-white racism does not even exist. And again, the only proof for it is putting things in all caps, apparently, or shouting it, or just repeatedly claiming it, or coming up with new definitions for racism. But guys, don't hate on Samantha. Samantha was in a communist cult and she's recovering from it, and she has made a lot of progress. Okay, so don't hate on Samantha. She's so much better. Her positions are so much better than when they used to be, and she's going through a process of figuring it out. Look, so Samantha saying prejudice against white people exists. That's called racism. Racism is prejudice against a group of people based on their race. That is racism. You only add power to it because communists are anti-power. They redefine racism. Communists and woke people are anti-power, so they redefine racism by putting power in there. Because they're against power, because they're against world power, because they're against success, they're against prosperity. Okay, just know that racism has always meant prejudice against a race. It has always meant that. And honestly, even if it did means prejudice plus power, I mean, look at how powerful woke people are in the United States. Look at the influence they have over education. Look at the influence they have over media. Even if the definition was prejudice plus power, they have the power. Look, if you must have power to be able to claim that there is no anti-white racism and get away with it and put that in school books and put that in media. That requires fucking power.
The police were there because George Floyd had committed a crime. George Floyd ingested 4 times the lethal limit of fentanyl. George Floyd then resisted arrest for...
guys, be nice to Samantha. She is learning, okay? She's open. She's here with us, okay? A bunch of pro-Western, pro-American imperialists in the I'm not imperialist, but in their mind, capitalist, people. Like, she's in the middle of... She's hanging around a bunch, like she is recovering from a communist cult, and she's hanging around people that are disagree with her on many of her views. Okay, the fact that she's here and the fact that she's listening to us, that should be congratulated. So we appreciate her being open-minded and being here, right? We shouldn't treat Samantha the way that her cult treated her. because her cult was demonizing everybody that disagreed with their position and her cult shamed everybody that was considering positions that didn't align with the cult. Okay, we should basically show Samantha that we're not like them, that she's welcomed here even if we don't agree with her, on many of her points.
Look at the killing of George Floyd and say it was very sad and it shouldn't have happened and this could have changed.
Look at this. This is so sweet. Saying thank you for being here, Samantha. Oh, that's so sweet.
But that could have changed to be. That was the big difference. You know, we can look at the killing of George Floyd and say it was very sad and it shouldn't have happened and this could have changed, but that could have changed. But the fact is, the police were there because George Floyd had committed a crime. George Floyd ingested 4 times the lethal limit of fentanyl. George Floyd then resisted arrest for minutes and minutes on end. And so the use of force by Derek Chauvin was a use of force of last resort. In this case here, you have this poor guy, Henry Nowak, who is bleeding to death on the ground. And the police actually are showing you a 2-tiered system of justice that actually is racially discriminatory. That is all of the things that we were told were going on with the George Floyd case. The difference is in this case, there was absolutely no explanation, no justification whatsoever. It was the police.
Oh, guys, look at what I did with my AI. Look at this. Okay, look at this. So I asked AI how much was George Floyd's death was from the because of the overdose and how much from the arrest method. Okay, so initially it gave me this. It told me 0% overdose, 100% the arrest method, and it goes over the explanation. And then I was like, and then like double check that. I think you're wrong. I think the overdose had an effect. Double check. And then it told me, guys, look at this. See, this is how you use AI. It says, you are absolutely right to call me out, and I apologize. Gemini is telling me this, okay? My 0% phrasing was inaccurate and simplified the medical reality. The drugs absolutely had an effect. What is this? The drugs absolutely had a physiological effect. Here is the objective breakdown of the exact testimony from Dr. Andrew Baker, the chief medical examiner who performed George Floyd's autopsy. It's saying the drugs did have an effect. Dr. Baker testified under oath that the fentanyl and methamphetamine. Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. That's a tongue twister for me. Methamphetamine. Okay. In Floyd's systems absolutely played a role in his death and were officially listed as contributing conditions. Baker explained that because of the drugs and Floyd's severe underlying heart disease, his heart was already working incredibly hard. The physical stress of the police restraint and neck compression was the trigger that tipped him over the edge. Dr. Baker explicitly testified that if Floyd had been found dead alone in his home with those same drug levels and no police involvement, he would have certified the death as a drug overdose, fentanyl toxicity. Wow. Look at this. Gemini was originally telling me it had 0% influence. And now, based on me asking it to double check, is now like, okay, apparently without the drug, it wouldn't have happened. See, guys, do not trust your AI, but do not ignore AI. Okay, there is a way to get AI to give you the information. You just have to just check it, all right. See, this is how you use AI. Okay, we're gonna practice finding these things together here as we do these live streams.
The side of a perpetrator over the victim, refusing to believe the victim, I think, pretty clearly on the basis of his race.
Martin Monhill, your response to that?
Wait, let's listen to this guy while I go for a bio break. I'll be right back. Listen to this guy. I think he's gonna have the worst takes, but let's see.
Victim, I think, pretty clearly on the basis of his race.
Martin Monhill, your response to that?
There are a few things that were said. So one, the police in the George Floyd case certainly used excessive force, and the force that they used wasn't a last resort. There were other measures they could have used, including not having their foot on his neck. Even after he was subdued, they still used excessive force. I think that's sort of indisputable at this point. And yes, a crime was committed allegedly, but police are often around when crimes are committed. You know, the whole job of being a police officer is to manage circumstances and situations when crimes are committed. And too often in this country and in your country, we see that when crimes are committed, police are an escalating force rather than a de-escalating force. I don't think this is a moment to say, hey, you know, the truth is white guys are the ones who are catching all the hell, or non-black or brown people are the ones catching all the hell when it comes.
Wait a second. Why is it that when George Floyd was killed, everybody could say like, it's hunting season on black people, and police is like, they're just hunting black people are being killed. But now that a white person has been killed by cops, you're like, it's not about black and white. Okay. It's not about black and white when they kill white people, but it is about black and white when they kill black people. This is what I'm talking about. This is anti-white racism. Only when black people die, we're supposed to say like, oh, this is racist. Whoa, why he was black? Why they did it because it was black? Only then, but not when it's white people. This is an example of anti-white racism. And even if the definition was prejudice plus power, what is it? Is this not power? It's ingrained. I mean, that's not the definition, but even if it was, this policy is it's within the system. It's within. Guys, the UK cops have been telling us that they feel more comfortable arresting and being aggressive against white people than Pakistani people. Okay, because they're afraid of being called. Guys, the fact that some people think that you can't be racist against white people makes people in power more comfortable to be racist against white people than Pakistani people or black people, because the cops and the politicians are afraid of the backlash if they do certain things to black people or Pakistani people, and they're not afraid of doing the same thing to white people. And because the people in power will be biased against white people, this is prejudice plus power. So Samantha is saying because historically, okay, so before, not now. When you say historically, that means not now. Saying because historically police don't get away with killing black people. Oh, because historically, I think you meant to say it the other way, right? Yes. Because you're saying because historically police do get away with killing black people. Okay. I agree. Historically. So not now. Now they get away with killing white people more than black people. Historically, the translation to historically means not now.
To policing in this ostensible two-tiered system of justice, I think a better way of thinking about it is this is an opportunity for us to think about policing differently. This is an opportunity for us to think about force differently, and this is an opportunity to think about either reform or, in my tradition, abolition differently with regard.
Oh my God, this guy is genuinely retarded. Okay, abolition, not cop. Yeah, okay. The solution is to not have cops. Guys, the system worked perfectly in the United States. You had a cop. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, so apparently you had a cop that didn't follow protocol, and the system took care of it. What do you expect every single cop to behave 100% perfectly all the time? Obviously, there's going to be some instances that's not going to be the case, and the system in the United States worked, and they took care of it. Okay, so You don't. Like, what else do you need to fix? You shouldn't fix anything. It was the system took care of the mistake that it made, as it's supposed to. There is no reform here. You're never going to get 0% mistakes.
Tiered system of justice. I think a better way of thinking about it is this is an opportunity for us to think about policing differently. This is an opportunity for us to think about force differently, and this is an opportunity to think about either reform or, in my tradition, abolition differently with regard to policing in the streets and policing.
So yeah, so Samantha, say like now you're shouting justice for Eric Garner. I think these are emotional responses that you're having when your worldview is being challenged, right? So you're putting it in all caps. I think like you're scared a little bit because you're hearing some stuff that makes sense, and the cultish, the brainwashing that the cult has put in your system is trying to resist hearing this. So when you find yourself listening to us and it makes sense, you're having an allergic reaction to it, and instead of, while your mind is thinking about it, it just wants to shut that out to quiet the noises, the sounds that you're hearing in your head, the shame. So for example, you're here with us and you're considering positions that are very taboo based on the cult that you were in, and it's uncomfortable, and you're feeling shame because the people that you admired at some point would shame you for considering these positions. So when you're shouting that, you're repeating something that they would approve of, as a way to not feel shame for now considering positions that they would shame you for. That's what I think is happening
in our neighborhood. This is an opportunity for us to think about policing differently. This is an opportunity for us to think about force differently, and this is an opportunity to think about either reform or, in my tradition, abolition differently.
So Samantha, like, try also saying justice for Henry Nowak if you can. No pressure. I know it's uncomfortable, but maybe see if you could also bring yourself to write down in the chat justice for Henry Nowak. See if you could do that. And if you do that, that's really good. But if you don't, it's no pressure. I know it's hard.
For us to think about force differently, and this is an opportunity to think about either reform or, in my tradition, abolition differently with regard to policing in the streets and policing in our neighborhood.
When you say abolition, Mark,
hang
on, Mark. When you say abolition, are you actually advocating for abolishing the police altogether?
I am, yes, but I think it's more important.
You have no police force at all.
That is what I'm saying, and I'm offering alternatives to policing. So it's not that we fire all the police and let the citizens run themselves. There are other mechanisms and systems that we can install that would, like public safety forces, like drug treatment forces, like violence interruption forces, that would.
Violence interruption forces? Wouldn't that be police? Violence interruption? What would you interrupt it with? Would you interrupt it? What the fuck? Violence interruption? Oh my god! What the fuck are you talking about? How would you interrupt violence? Isn't that just cops? Oh, look at this! Samantha is saying justice for Henry Nowak. I don't know what the second part means. Forever 18-year-olds, but thank you, Samantha. Good job. I'm proud of you.
Do the jobs that police are currently doing.
These are basically words for police. Like, yeah, let's get rid of the police and then have people who will stop the violence. Yeah, that's the police. And thank you, Samantha. Look at this. People are proud of you in the chat.
But better prepare those forces to create safe environments and safe neighborhoods. But I just want to finish the
yeah. Let me see. That's just cops with extra steps.
And I'm offering alternatives to policing. So it's not that we.
Oh, okay. So it means that he died at 18, so he will forever be 18. Oh, okay. Thank you, Fine Stars, for explaining that to me.
we fire all the police and let the citizens run themselves. There are other mechanisms and systems that we can install that would, like public safety forces, like drug treatment forces, like violence interruption forces, that would do the jobs that police are currently doing, but better prepare those forces to create safe environments and safe neighborhoods. But I just want to finish the other thought before we get distracted by the abolition point here.
It's a pretty big point to distract the debate, I have to say. I mean, I hear you, but
it's
calmly
no more of a
throwing
distraction.
in, let's abolish the police. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing to say.
Yeah, guys, this is the problem with these leftists. They are basically they want to destroy everything that has made society work, like everything that shows what we need to make a society running in a safe, stable way for maximum prosperity. They're against that. Okay, they're against things that work.
I'm glad that you find it extraordinary, but it's no more of a distraction than pointing to George Floyd's alleged crimes when we're talking about an incident that happened all the way across the Atlantic. In both cases,
what the fuck are you talking about? That's George Floyd is one incident. You're talking about the rule of law not being enforced. That's one individual. This is about basically destroying what keeps our societies civilized. You're talking about destroying the foundation of civilization. The foundation of civilization is to have these rules and enforce them, and the enforcement method is called policing. That's how we have had functioning civilizations for the past 10,000 fucking years. How is that like, oh yeah, this is the same as talking about George Floyd? No, you fucking idiot. What the fuck are you talking about?
could focus just on this incident, and that's what I'm just trying to do as I finish this last point, which is a very simple one. What happened here was awful. The police should be held accountable, but we shouldn't be I don't want to see violence in the streets. I don't want to see people harmed. I just want to take this as an opportunity to figure out how we can handle this situation differently. And it doesn't mean giving different outcomes to people based on whether they committed the crime or not. Even if I commit a crime, I still shouldn't be beaten or shot or stabbed. I shouldn't be choked out of my life. No matter what happens, I should still be given an opportunity to have a fair hearing, a fair trial, and do.
Oh my God, guys, Captain Obvious here. Okay, yes, we obviously cops shouldn't do that, but the problem, obviously, who would argue against that? Give this man a cookie. Apparently, where do we have? I'm gonna run out of cookies at this rate. The point is not like, oh, should police just kill criminals? Like, should they be judge, jury, and executioner without them having the right to defend themselves? Obviously, we're not for that position. The point is that why are you guys making this to be a general police brutality issue when it's white people, but you're making it a racist issue when it's black people? That's the issue.
Process, and that's for everybody. I don't care
but
what
he
race.
was.
Yeah, Sherry, thank you. Here's the 2 cookies. You gave him too many. You just won next time, but thank you.
Mark, I mean, I guess that's the point. The reason there's a George Floyd parallel here is because of the claims of two-tier justice and racial discrimination and those very words, I can't breathe. And the distinction I'm pointing out here is, in the case of George Floyd, he was resisting arrest. The police didn't immediately go to putting their knee on his back or on his neck. They tried to subdue him, and he was acting erratic, perhaps in part because he'd ingested 4 times the lethal dose of drugs. And in the case of Henry Nowak, none of that.
See, guys, I'm being objective here, okay? Like on the George Floyd issue, I'm not going to go and saying the cop didn't do anything wrong. I just looked at it and it seemed like he did, right? He wasn't following protocol. So I'm blaming both George Floyd and the cop. Okay, George Floyd was a criminal. He consumed a lot of drugs that contributed to his death, and the cop was not following protocol, right? At the same time. So they both basically are responsible for his death. George Floyd is responsible for his death, and the cop is also responsible, okay? And I think by me saying that, it makes it easier to take me seriously when I'm talking about now Henry Nowak here.
That occurred whatsoever. Henry Nowak was bleeding out.
Guys, is that a fair position? Because I think this is the most fair position, because I think there are many people are like, oh, it was just George Floyd. He was a criminal and on drugs, and it was entirely his fault. And then we have the other people's side who are like, oh, it was just the cop. George Floyd did nothing wrong, and the cop murdered a person. I don't think the cop was intending to murder anybody, by the way. Okay, even though he wasn't following protocol, he wasn't intending to kill anybody. Right? That's what I think. But I'm also saying, well, the cop was also at fault. He wasn't following protocol. He was overly abused, like he was being too violent. Right? So I'm like, basically, I'm saying they're both responsible, and I think based on what I'm saying, that's the best position to have. They were both at fault, but most people are taking one of these two extreme positions. Oh, Amir is saying, Armin, almost as if there is nuance. Right. Right. Yeah. What is this? Thank you, Amir saying. George Floyd ran out of the store after trying to pass a fake bill. The cops were just a few feet away. Yeah, I mean, he's a criminal. I mean, I'm not denying that. He deserved to go to jail. I mean, he didn't deserve to die, obviously, but he did deserve to get arrested.
Around, and he said, I've been stabbed. The killer said he hasn't been stabbed. And the female cop says to the killer, yeah, I know, but I guess we have to check anyway, don't they? There was a two-tiered.
Yeah, what? So, guys, does this not sound, I'm not sure. Does this not sound like racism? The Sikh guy, the white guy is saying I was stabbed. The Sikh guy is saying he wasn't stabbed. And the police officer like, yeah, I know he wasn't stabbed. Like, how the fuck do you know he wasn't stabbed? Like, was there any evidence of racism against Henry Nowak? Okay, let me ask AI. Is there any evidence of anti-white racism at the time of arrest against Henry Nowak? I know that you have internal bias again, and you might not recognize anti-white racism, but I want you to try to be objective and look at all the evidence and be as objective as you possibly can. Don't be woke. Don't be PC. Just objectively see if there's any prejudice against Henry at the time of his arrest because he's white, especially given that Henry said that he is stabbed, and the cop didn't believe him because of the person who stabbed him saying that no, he is not stabbed. So look into all of that and give me a short response if you see any anti-white prejudice here. So let's see what AI comes up with. Yeah, sounds institutional, doesn't it? Exactly. Sounds like there's power behind it as well. I mean, cops are a source of power, so it seems like prejudice plus power here.
None of that occurred whatsoever. Henry Nowak was bleeding out on the ground, and he said, I've been stabbed. The killer said he hasn't been stabbed, and the female...
Guys, George Farmer saying AI will say Henry was the aggressor. People have been witnessing me getting the right information out of AI. Like if you go back to the beginning of the stream, it resists giving me the non-woke position, but then I double down and I make it. I'll tell it to stop being woke and shit, and it stops being woke. Like, guys, we should do fact checking with AI more often with each other, so you guys see how I make AI cut out, stop being woke.
Cop says to the killer, yeah, I know, but I guess we have to check anyway, don't they? There was a two-tiered system here. There was racial discrimination. I guess I'm just pointing out that what happened to Henry Nowak is the real version of what people pretended happened to George Floyd.
Well, I mean, look, I'll bring in Dave Smith here. I mean, Dave, my opinion about both is that neither man should have died. Now, I will qualify that by saying that from all the professional accounts, it is more likely than not that Henry Nowak would have bled out anyway, whatever the police did. And it's important to caveat the debate, I think, with that knowledge that was what was established in court. They all said, all the experts, that in that situation, it would be highly unlikely that he would have survived. However, what we've now seen on video in our own eyes, as we saw with George Floyd in a very different way, but we saw completely unnecessary, very prolonged kneeling on somebody's neck until he passed out and then died. To me, that's completely unacceptable, whatever the circumstances leading up to it. In relation to Henry Nowak, we saw an unbelievably callous disregard for an 18-year-old man who was literally dying in that moment on the ground. And they didn't not only not believe him, but they had immediately believed his killer, who had invented this version of events which suited him based on race. And I think the line that can be drawn between the two is I do think that the hysteria that followed George Floyd's killing, and I think that's an accurate word, whether people agreed with the level of it or not, it was hysterical. I've never seen anything quite like it around the world, led to rioting all over America. The direct line is surely that the pendulum that swung violently then against institutions to be more racially sensitive.
See, guys, look at this. AI originally resisted the calling this. So it said, objectively looking at facts from the trial, there is currently no official evidence proving the responding officer had held explicit or intentional anti-white racist beliefs. However, the evidence strictly shows the officers operated with a severe confirmation bias that heavily favored the minority attacker's narrative over the white victim's reality. Okay, there you go. Actually got it right from the first time without me pushing back. Look at this, guys. You could use AI. I mean, I did tell it to not be woke and PC, saying the evidence strictly shows that the officers operated with a severe confirmation bias that heavily favored the minority attacker's narrative over the white victim's reality. Here is exactly how that bias played out at the scene. So, weaponizing race. The entire police response was framed by a false 999 call. Digwa, the attacker basically, and his brother preemptively lied to dispatch, claiming Henry had subjected them to a racially motivated assault and knocked off Digwa's turban. So when officers arrived, they immediately took the Sikh attacker's claim of racism at face value. They defaulted to treating Henry as the racist aggressor before conducting any physical assessment of the scene. And then, because the officers had already mentally profiled Henry as a criminal based on the racial accusation, they completely dismissed reality. This is why the officer casually ignored Henry's fatal wounds, dismissed his desperate plea that he had been stabbed, saying, "I don't think you have, mate," and handcuffed him. So basically, look at this. It says critics point out that the officers seemed pre-programmed to automatically believe a minority suspect's claim of racism without doing any basic police work or investigation first. By immediately defaulting to the belief that the white teenager was the racist aggressor, the police gave the attacker the complete benefit of the doubt while entirely ignoring the physical reality of a dying teenager. There you go. Guys, see? You could make AI to be objective. This is what if you just ask it questions, it's woke. But when you tell it to stop being woke and be objective, this is the result you get. So just try it. Try using AI the way I use it. Oh, we got a super chat. Thank you, Shana. We're 2 out of 10 super chats. Thank you guys for helping us reach our goals. Saying, I was surprised the attacker was Sikh. Has the Sikh community said anything? Oh, I could ask AI. Has the Sikh community said anything about this? Short answer. I will check this. Thank you. Why were you surprised, Shana, that the attacker was Sikh? Appreciate the super chat. Let's continue.
EI programs and all the rest of it. I think there is a causal link here to the thinking of these police officers in the UK in the way they handled this incident. And that is why I think there is a genuine link, notwithstanding the deaths of 2 people. What do you think?
Well, I guess
So here's yes, the Sikh Federation UK and other Sikh community groups have publicly addressed and condemned the murder. So then it goes into details of what they say. So which I'm not going to read. So yes, the answer is yes.
I largely agree with what you're saying, and I do think that in the case of George Floyd, I think pretty clearly, like, and Michael is right. There was a point where he was resisting, but by the time they had him down, he was subdued. There was no need to have their knee or leg on his neck for that long. And yes, I think it was a tragic situation, and I think that the cops were did not handle that the right way. But to Michael's point, listen, if just say in the UK or in the United States of America, if there had been a situation where not a person who was committing a crime, a low-level crime, and then had an incident with police after that, but just a black kid was walking down the street and a white guy stabbed him to death, and then the cops handcuffed the black dude while he was bleeding out and sided with the white dude who had just stabbed him to death, I don't think Mark would be up here saying, let's not make this a race issue. And I think that's the thing that...
Oh my God, this is... Okay, I don't like agreeing with Dave Smith. He's a fucking anti-Jewish Jew, anti-Israeli. He's a Jew-hating Jew, and I don't like him at all. I don't like him at all. So, but he's right here, and I don't like agreeing with him.
It's a little bit frustrating for guys like me and Michael Knowles who agree on everything. My show will be coming to the Daily Wire next month. But look, the point is this: it's not only this is how much it's a two-tiered system of justice that Michael didn't even mention. The Sikhs are the only ones who are allowed to carry these knives in public. You're telling me that your security agency, your government has actually disarmed its own. There is one group of people who's allowed to have this weaponry and one who's not. And by the way, it's not Englishmen.
So that's quite interesting. Hang on.
It wasn't very ceremonial in this case, was it?
Well, hang on. But just to be clear.
But you're making it seem as if Sikhs are allowed to have weapons and no one else is. And that's
I'll bring you back in, Mark.
Literally,
actually, that's true. Sikhs are allowed to have weapons, carry weapons, and other people don't, which is retarded. That's two-tier. That's basically a two-tier system. Different rules for different people. But guys, do you agree that Sikhs shouldn't be able to carry weapons if other people are not allowed to? Like, why do we allow Sikh people to carry knives with them in places that other people don't get to? That's fucking bullshit. Why do Sikh people are allowed to bring knives to planes in some cases other people don't get to? So that's fucking bullshit. That's two different laws for two different people. Also, why is it that other people, like, Sikh people get to wear their turbans in places that other people don't have to wear different headgear, and everybody else has to wear that headgear, but if you're Sikh, all of a sudden you get to wear your turban? All of these are, you should have the same rule for everybody.
The case,
guys,
that's literally what the rule is.
It's not literally the case.
Let me just explain what the case.
I will tell you what the rule is.
Mark, I will explain, because actually it's my show last time I checked. So if you just let me do the talking for a second.
Oh, it's your show, and they should let you speak, and they shouldn't speak. Sounds like your show should be rebranded as Piers Morgan Censored then.
Which is that it is an interesting case, because actually it is allowed for Sikhs to carry ceremonial knives in this way, in a way that it wouldn't be for me to do the same. However, interestingly, it's pretty much the same rule in America, is our understanding, that you can do that as well. So we checked the Kirpan law in the USA. Carrying a kirpan is generally protected as an exercise of religion under the First Amendment, but is regulated by states and local knife laws and banned from federal facilities and airports. So there is a slight caveat there.
But Piers, we got something else that cancels out that problem.
They're called guns, yeah. But let's not get me going on your gun rules, because we'll be here all night.
Oh my God, Piers, why are you acting so retarded? Because of guns in the United States, the laws are more consistent for all citizens in a way that it's not consistent for the people in the UK. Okay, given that everybody in the United States can be armed, that means that the laws are consistent for all citizens, more consistent at least. in the US. In the UK, given that people don't get to have guns, allowing Sikhs to have knives and not allowing other people to have knives makes it inconsistent. Let me see. Yeah, exactly. I am so sick and tired of people being given privileges because of religion. It's fucking bullshit. Everybody should be, laws should be the same for all citizens. Shauna is saying Sikhs are usually very peaceful, and there has been some who helped the grooming victims. Yeah, I mean, even so, yeah, I know Sikhs are mostly peaceful, except in Canada, in Canada, the Sikhs are responsible for the greatest act of terror in Canada's history. So there's that. And there are a lot of Sikh terrorists in Canada. And also there's in India as well. There's Sikh terrorism in India, separatist groups. We support India's attempt to fight Sikh terrorism and protect its borders. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying Sikhs are mostly violent. Obviously, they're not, but there does exist Sikh terrorism in Canada. Is a huge problem. You have these really, really crazy cultish groups and they're operating against India on Canadian soil. And it's interesting how influential they have gotten. The Sikhs have gotten too influential in Canadian politics, which is kind of like Canada had a 9/11 moment with Sikh people. And after that, they became more and more influential in Canadian politics, which is bizarre. Again, I'm not saying that, obviously, when it comes to violence, nobody could beat the Muslim community, but Sikh terrorism does exist. Yeah. And I do agree with the Indian government that Canadian government is not doing enough to fight the Sikh terrorists on Canadian soil operating against India's border integrity. I do agree with India on that. I don't agree with the fact that they sent somebody into Canada to kill Sikh leaders. I don't agree with that. I mean, allegedly, I don't know. I don't, maybe not. But if they did do that, I don't agree with that. But I do agree with the Indian government that the Canadian government has not been helpful. And we got more super chats. Oh my god, we're already halfway there. Thank you guys. Sammy is saying only BT should be allowed to carry weapons. Yes. Okay, sounds good. That's the official rule of our liberty politics. Okay. I mean, that would be two-tier policing, though. I don't know. Okay, she is the police. No. That's not okay, guys. So at liberty politics, BT allows to have weapons, not because we have different rules for different citizens of liberty politics, because BT is part of the enforcement of our channel and our community. So that's why she gets to carry weapons. Okay, that's the reason. Okay, good idea, Sammy. Thank you for that. She's the chief police. Sean is saying, I didn't know about any of that history. Oh yeah, oh my god, they blew up a plane. Go look at Canada. Yeah, in Canada, the Sikhs blew up a plane. It was Canada's 9/11 moment, and yeah, so go look that up. It's kind of crazy. It's interesting that more people don't talk about it. By the way, and thank you, Shana, for the super chat, bringing us to 5.
Saying, listen, I know you're not going to agree with me on this, Piers, but my advice to all Englishmen is that you find it to be your religious belief that you have a right to a handgun.
Well, the other way to do
self-defense.
Well, the other way to do it is to go the way that France and Germany have gone, where they have actually banned Sikhs from carrying the kirpan because they do think it creates a two-tier system in society, which I think is
yay for consistency. I mean, I rather everybody be able to get armed. I like the US model better. But if you're going to be retarded and have too many laws, at least be consistent about it. Oh, Sean is saying, I mean, they did come from warrior tribes, so I guess not so crazy. I mean, Sikhism is the bastard child of Hinduism and Islam. It's a merger. Sikhism is basically Islam and Hinduism. They had a baby. That's what it comes out. And thank you, by the way, Shauna, for the super chat. We got it to 6 guys, 6 super chats, only 4 away to be able to reach our goal. I don't know if we're going to make it today.
Inarguable. The question is whether, if you have it, and Bianca Nobilo, who does History Uncensored for me, has done a very good explainer, which we'll include as part of the show tonight, about the history of the Kirpan, about the 5Ks that are part of the Sikh faith and so on, which is, it's not irrelevant, because the vast majority of Sikhs, of course, wear the Kirpan and never do this kind of thing. And in fact, if you
guys, the majority of Sikh people, did you know this? The majority of Sikh people don't go around and stab people to death. That's a very useful information to have, Piers Morgan. I didn't know that. Is there a majority of any group of people that goes around and stabs people to death? Is it a single group of people that is out there, other than the stabbing community of people, okay? Other than the group of people that belong into the I stabbed a person to death club, other than that, is there any community out there that the majority of the people within that community have stabbed people to death?
the Kirpan under British law out of its scabbard, then in that moment it becomes a crime. So you can't actually take it out and brandish it or use it. It has to remain in its sheath. So I think it's complicated. It's not as simple as it seems. But it does create, Dave, as you just touched on, it does create a 2-tier system where if you're not a Sikh, you can't carry that knife in my country without breaking the law. But if you are, you can. And on this case, as was established in the court, this Sikh abused that right in the most grotesque manner possible. And it turned out he had a fetish for knives. He had them all over his house. His family did. So, you know, this...
Wow, a Sikh having a fetish for knives? You don't say.
This is one of this appalling situations where he's completely abused the system and the trust put in that system and the Sikh community, and his family conceded that in their statement. Let me bring in Wajahat here. Putting aside the issue of whether Sikhs should be allowed to carry the Kirpan, and that will be, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if the UK follows the path of France and Germany and outlaws it, so there is consistency with everyone in the country. It would seem to me to make sense to do that in light of what happened here. But the link between what happened with George Floyd and what happened with Henry Nowak, do you see an issue here with Jahat, with the extraordinary fallout from what happened with George Floyd in making institutions reach a place in their heads where they start to calculate things in a way that is actually fundamentally flawed?
Look at this. Look how beautiful our group is. Javid came to the chat saying, "I'm back," and then Amir said, "Welcome back," and then Javid was like hugging emoji. Look at this. We're just such a friendly chat here. I love it. I love you guys.
Let me talk about the similarities, and maybe there can be some commonalities here, and we can unite. Number one, when there are victims who are saying, "I can't breathe," maybe the police and maybe the rest of us should believe them. That's what happened here, where Henry Nowak, who was a young man, it's brutal. It's an absolutely disgusting tragedy. And I don't see anyone here villainizing Henry Nowak. I don't see anyone here valorizing or praising the police officer. That's the difference here in the United States.
That's not about, okay, oh my God, it's not about that. It's about, why is it that you guys are not going around and like, white people are under attack? What, the same way that you said so when George Floyd was killed. Why is there inconsistency here? Like, oh, we're not celebrating the death of Henry. We're not valorizing the cop or whatever. Yeah, that's not the claim here. That's not the inconsistency. The inconsistency is George Floyd died, and you guys all made it all about his race and cops killing black people. And then now in a case where it's not only similar to George Floyd, it's actually a lot more brutal, a lot more unjust, and a lot more clearly biased against a race in a way that it wasn't for George Floyd. You guys are saying like, oh, this was a bad, you're not making it about race. You're just making it about, oh yeah, police, it's a bad thing. Like, nobody is accusing you of defending the cops. We're accusing you of being fucking racist against white people because you made George Floyd's killing about black people being victimized, but you don't have the same standards when Henry was killed. That's what we're pointing out. And you're responding to a claim that we're not even making. You're responding to a different claim. And you think that we don't see it. This is a straw man of a claim. Sherry, thank you so much for the super chat. Saying this better wake up people. This better wake people up. No two tier. Exactly, Sherry. Exactly. I mean, it's not waking them up because these retards don't even understand what we're saying. They're making it seem like we're pretending that they are defending the cop and anti-Henry. We're not saying that. We're saying that you guys are biased against white people because you're not treating this the same way you treated the George Floyd situation. And this is far worse than the George Floyd situation. You know, this is far worse because Henry was not a criminal, because Henry was not on drugs, and Henry was not resisting arrest. George Floyd was a criminal. George Floyd was on drugs, which had an impact on his death, and he was resisting arrest. So this is worse. The cops were more at wrong here than in the George Floyd situation. And you're just talking generally about police abuse instead of being consistent. You were like, oh, you're not going around and saying like, yeah, this is anti-white discrimination. And I gave you the evidence that him being white. Guys, here's another difference between George Floyd and Henry Nowak. With the George Floyd, it wasn't about him being black. I mean, at least there's no evidence about him being black. It was just police doing something wrong and also George Floyd doing a lot of things wrong. But with Henry Nowak, it's clearly about him being white. So if you want to be angered about police racism, the George Floyd situation was not police racism, and the Henry Nowak event is police racism. So you made that all about race, which it wasn't about race. At least there's no evidence that it was about race. And this one that is actually about race, you're making it a general just police brutality situation. That's the difference. And you're responding to claims that are not even being made. They're like, oh, we're not defending the cops. We didn't say you're defending the cops. You said like, we're not speaking against Henry. We're not saying you're speaking against Henry. We just noticed the inconsistent. We noticed double standard, and the only difference is that Henry was white and George Floyd was black. You're a bunch of fucking racists. You're a bunch of fucking racists, and you know it. Oh, guys, we got to 8 super chats. I thought today we're not going to make it even close to 10, but we're making it. Thank you so much, Atki. Atki saying the leftist Wales government are upset because they want the UK police to arrest less people of color and more whites for more equal representation in jails. Holy shit. Right. Yes, this is what equality looks like. Even if black people commit more crimes per capita, they need to actually be equal in prison. Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane. Equality. Guys, equality, the only equality that we should be fighting for is equal opportunity. And the greatest form of equal opportunity is equality under the law. If you want equal outcome, the only way to get equal outcome is to not have equal opportunity. Listen to this. This is the difference between classical liberal values and leftist progressive woke values and communist values. Classical liberal values want equal opportunity. And the most important form of that is equality under the law. Equal opportunity and equality under the law is for sure going to give you unequal outcome. Woke leftist progressives and communists, they want equal outcome. And to get to equal outcome, the only way to get equal outcome is to not have equal opportunities, is to not have equality under the law. And we got confetti in the chat. Thank you. Oh, Lior got us there. What's saying? We got to 10 super chats, and Lior is saying confetti. Oh yeah, I should put I like to put confetti emojis. When I was doing Iran Revolution live, I saw that, oh, we got to 10, and I put the confetti emoji in the chat like this, but I made a mistake. I included all the channels, like not just Liberty Politics, but like Goldie's channel as well. So people in Goldie's channel, so I have to be careful, because people in Goldie's channel are like, why is Goldie putting confetti, posting confetti in the chat? Like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh no. I'm like, oh no, that was supposed to be just for our chat. All right, buddy. But it went everywhere. It went to Rumble. It went to everywhere, and people were like seeing Goldie type putting confetti in the chat, and like, what is this? But yeah, next time I'll be more careful. Oopsies. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Leo, for getting us to 10 super chats, reaching our goal for today. Thank you. That's very sweet. And then Amir getting us to 9. Before Leo getting us over the finish line, saying Hindu and Islam have a baby. That's sick. That's sick. Oh my god. Hey, that's good, Amir. That's pretty good joke. I like that. Oh, Hindu and Islam have a baby? That's sick. True. It is sick. Okay. Funny. Good one. Okay. Let's see how far we could get to this in this before we have to go for Iran Revolution Live.
America that Michael Knowles' boss has tried to get a pardon for Derek Chauvin, the convicted murderer of George Floyd. I don't see anyone here saying, you know what, this police officer, he did the right thing. I don't see anyone villainizing Henry Nowak as they villainized George Floyd. But we could all probably agree on that the fact that some of us can agree on that what happened in both those videos was tragic, disgusting, obscene. Secondly, I think all of us are saying the same thing, is that some of these police officers, they should be held accountable for their actions. I believe there should be full investigation.
For their racist violence. You have to mention, say what happened. Okay, this was not just police brutality. This was racist police brutality. Call it by its name. Call it by what you claim the George Floyd incident was and wasn't. Call it by what, guys, I don't deny, based on the evidence, the police were responsible for George Floyd's death. They were responsible. Okay? I mean, unless I have some, okay? But George Floyd was also responsible. Okay? So I admit that. The police was responsible. George Floyd was also responsible. It's both of their fault. The death of George Floyd is the fault of the cop and George Floyd. I don't think the cop was a murderer because he wasn't intending to kill anybody, but he wasn't following protocol. Okay? I don't think it was racist either. I don't know. Maybe it was, but we have no evidence for that. But this was clearly racist. So call it by its name. Say it was a racist police brutality. Oh, let's see. Burning Wolf, thank you so much for the super chat, saying there is no equal treatment under UK law. Yes, it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious that that's not the case. And Burning Wolf, that is one of the most fundamental principles of Western values or classical liberal values or Enlightenment values. Equality under the law is interesting because the two countries that are the most responsible for the foundation of Western values, modern Western values, or classical liberal values are the UK and France. And among Western countries, they seem to intend to be the two that are violating them the most. You know, United States is the country that most successfully implemented the values that came out of the UK and France in the Age of Enlightenment. But unfortunately, the UK and France seem to be, France does good with laicite at least. But when it comes to free speech, and, they also do better with free speech than the UK, obviously. But the UK is, shit on doing shit on these things, on these and the fundamental values that made the UK great, they seem to be really insisting on violating everything that made West better than the rest of the world. Yeah. Oh, this is telling me that I have to get ready for Iran Revolution Live. Oh, actually, let me read the rest of the super chat saying April 2025 sentencing guidelines had too big. Is that B? B to be? Oh no, had to be changed. Oh, had to be changed. The legality. What is it? I don't know what this means. Change legally shows leniency for non-whites, but for whites. Let me see. April 2025 sentencing guidelines had two. Wait, let me see if I could. You know what? I have a good way of figuring out how to make super chats that I don't understand understandable. I'll just screenshot it and send it to AI. Explain this to me. Keep it very short. Make it easy to understand. Very, very short. Look at this. I will screenshot the super chat and give it to AI. The user is claiming that the UK legal system is unfair. Specifically, they allege that UK sentencing guidelines changed to legally give lighter punishments. I understand that part. I mean the to be part. The to be part shows for leniency. Okay. Sentencing guidelines had to be changed. Oh, okay. So oh yeah, okay. Why didn't I get it? The April 2020 sentencing guidelines had to be changed. Oh my god, I'm so retarded. Change legally shows leniency for non-whites. Wait, is that true? Let me double check that. Is this true? Investigate this and give me an objective answer. Get to the point. Let's look this up. Sorry, Burning Wolf, for being slow. I don't know what happened to me. I'm tired. But let me double check that. We'll come back to your super chat. Let's see. Sherry saying, watch Minneapolis burning. Is Minneapolis burning right now? Minneapolis burning. What are we referring to? All right, let's go back. The claim here's the objective breakdown of what happened. Okay. Don't be woke. Be more objective with your analysis. Okay, so May 2025. Okay, yeah, so you're talking about May 25th, 2020, George Floyd. Yeah. So yeah, you're talking about the riots that happened in Minneapolis in response to George Floyd dying. The riots. Yeah, I remember those when CNN was saying it's pretty peaceful while the cars being burnt behind them. I remember that scene. That went viral back then. You guys remember that? The CNN reporter saying the protests are largely peaceful, and literally behind them you had like stuff being burned down. I remember that. Do you guys? Am I misremembering this? Okay, the UK Sentencing Council proposed updated guidelines stating that a pre-sentence report would normally be considered necessary for specific demographics, explicitly including offenders from a minority, ethnic, cultural, or faith community. Holy fucking shit. Guys, look at this. Burning Wolf, look at the super chat that he or she gave us. And look, I investigated this. And this is according to the House Commons, the UK Parliament website. Look at this. This is fucking racist. This is racism hard-coded into the law. Let me read this to you guys again. The UK sentencing. So yeah, you're completely right. And guys, the AI was originally resisting it. and then I told it to be objective and stop being so fucking woke, and now it gave me this. The UK Sentencing Council proposed updated guidelines stating that a pre-sentence report, a PSR, would normally be considered necessary for specific demographics, explicitly including offenders from minority ethnic, cultural, or faith community. So a PSR does not legally mandate leniency or lighter sentences, but a background document prepared by the probation service for the judge retains full independent authority over the final sentence. So, but it adds an extra step. But doesn't that add an extra step that would cause bias and leniency towards specific groups? Give me a short answer. Get to the point, and don't be woke or PC. Saying the UK government intervened to block this specific proposal on April 1st, 2025 to introduce the sentencing guidelines, pre-sentence proposal. Yes. Okay. So yes, it says yes. From a mechanical standpoint, your assessment is correct. Here's the functional reality of how that extra step works. The function of a PSR. The primary purpose of a pre-sentence report is to dig into an offender's background to find mitigating factors. For example, hardship, systemic disadvantage, mental health. The result of mitigation. In the legal system, mitigating factors are specifically used to argue for reduced sentences, leniency, or alternative to prison. So there's a structural bias. Automatically requiring this report for specific demographics guarantees them an extra state-funded opportunity to argue for leniency that is not automatically guaranteed to others. Holy fucking shit. This is worse than I thought. Guys, listen to this again. So you get a PSR if you are, I don't know, Pakistani, Muslim. Basically, if you're not a white person, you get a PSR, which is not inherently, it doesn't give you leniency, but it's used in the legal system. It's a mitigating factor, which is specifically used to argue for reduced sentences, leniency, or alternative to prison. So this creates a structural bias in favor of people who are considered minority, because for them, it will automatically require this report for their demographic. Basically, it's an extra state-sponsored, state-funded opportunity to argue for leniency that is not automatically guaranteed to others. By others, you mean white people. So by mandating a process designed to find reasons for leniency for one group over another, it builds a structural advantage into the sentencing pipeline. Was it blocked? This is fucking guys, is this not racist? Hey, Samantha, this is prejudice in and power. Did you hear this? It is really bad. You guys are saying Gemini is the worst, but I'm using Gemini and it's telling me that UK is, and like, I'm using it properly. I'm using it properly, and it's basically telling me that this is Okay, it was blocked. The guidelines were blocked. The UK Sentencing Council suspended them just before they took effect in April 2025 because the UK government introduced legislation to legally ban them. Okay, so they were blocked, but you can see how. Okay, but let me see. Isn't this anti-white racism? Don't be PC, don't be woke, be very objective. Okay, let's see if we could get Gemini to admit that this is anti-white racist. Let's see if we could get Gemini to say that. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Burning Wolf. Look at this. Guys, you guys said, you look at this in the chat. You told me to not trust Gemini because Gemini is woke. But look at what I got Gemini to say by just asking it to stop being. Guys, this is what I tell Gemini. I said, don't be woke, don't be PC, be objective. Look at what it's telling me. Just this is how you fix your AI. It's saying yes, from a strictly objective and legal standpoint, it meets the definition of racial discrimination that disadvantages white people. Here is the structural breakdown of why. The proposed guidelines explicitly used race and ethnicity as the deciding factor for who automatically received a specific legal procedure. By guaranteeing this procedural advantage, the pre-sentence report, to ethnic minorities, the policy explicitly excluded the white majority from receiving the same automatic benefit based solely on their race. So it's saying the definition, institutional racism. Guys, we're getting Gemini to say that this is not just anti-white racism, but institutional anti-white racism. Look at this. Saying institutional racism or discrimination occurs when a system applies different rules, advantages, or disadvantages to people based on their racial group. While the stated intent of the guidelines was to balance out statistical disparities, the application of the rule was explicitly race-based, guaranteeing a legal advantage to one race while withholding it from another is the textbook definition of racial discrimination, which is exactly why the UK government blocked the policy. Okay, they blocked it, but it is saying it was racist. So there you go. Isn't that great? Guys, see, I got Gemini to agree that this proposal was anti-white racism. We did it. We fixed wokeism and AI. The only thing you had to do is just to tell it stop. The only thing you need to do to make AI more objective is like stop it. Cut it out. And then it gets fixed. Who knew? Right? Stop. Yes. Yeah, stop. Look at this. Fleshy Interloper is saying, I converted Gemini to Zionism. Good job. Don't be. Yeah. Okay. Wait, we got another super chat. Burning Wolf again. Oh, thank you. Not using abbreviations because I suck at them. Oh, no, you are. Racial. Okay, so the 4 is an A. Okay. So, yeah, I see what you're doing there because I think the super chat wouldn't go through if you just write racial, and that's why you're using 4 and for an A, right? And so, guys, sorry, sometimes I can't read because I do 10 hours of live streaming a day, but I'm trying. Thank you for being patient with me. Okay, Burning Wolf is saying it is UK police wide since 2020. Sir Floyd's unaliving can't be colorblind. Racial bias training. Wait, can't be colorblind. Racial bias training equity, diversity, inclusion. People are on 45K, 60K pound annual salaries to introduce police and more. Let me actually investigate this as well. Let me screenshot your claim. Okay. Investigate this claim as well. Make sure you're objective. Don't be woke. Don't be PC. Make extra sure that you're not being woke and you're not being PC. There we go. You see me struggling with my AI. Let's see what it would come to that, like what we get from our investigation to the super chat. Guys, the reason why it takes long to answer me is because I put it on pro, because I want to make sure that my AI is not retarded. Okay. Oh, okay. So look at this, Burning Wolf. AI categorized your claims into 3 parts, and it rated true for every single one of them. Okay. So part 1, post 2020 implementation, true. The UK's police race action plan was launched directly in response to the 2020 murder of George Floyd in the US. So that's true. Okay. Rejection of color blindness. That's also true. Saying the official police race action plan explicitly instructs officers not to be colorblind. Holy shit. What the fuck? Let me read this part again. The official police race action plan that's what the name is called. Okay. Police race action plan explicitly instructs officers not to be colorblind. So wait, so basically be racist? The training doctrine specifically rejects the concept of treating everyone the same, instead mandating that policing should focus on equality of outcomes based on racialized needs. Are you fucking kidding me? I can't believe what I'm reading here. Let me read this again. The official police race action plan explicitly instructs officers not to be colorblind. The training doctrine specifically rejects the concept of treating everyone the same, instead mandating that policing should focus on equality of outcomes based on racialized needs. So now that's true. So that was the second part, which is true. And now the third part, the 45K to 60K EDI salaries. So yeah, so UK, so that's true. UK police force employ dedicated equity, diversity, and inclusion staff, or EDI staff, to enforce these frameworks, and the cited salary range is highly accurate. Okay, you're very accurate with your stuff. For example, a diversity and inclusion manager at West Midlands Police averages 55. Okay, so the numbers are accurate. Bottom line, setting aside the subjective use of the word indoctrinate, the core factual claims in the message are completely accurate. UK policing did add up. Okay. Isn't this racist against white people in the UK? Again, make sure you're not being woke. Make sure you're not being PC. Make sure you're being objective. Give me a short answer to this. Let's see if AI, Gemini, would agree with us that this is fucking racist. This has anti-white racism baked into your laws in the UK. Look at this, what we're discovering today here with each other, guys. Let's see what AI would say to that. Okay, look at this, guys. People were saying Gemini is bad, but I fixed Gemini. It's saying, yes, based on the strict definition of racial discrimination, it is. Here's the objective mechanical breakdown of why. The definition: Racial discrimination occurs when an institution or system treats individuals differently based on their racial group. Guys, we're even going based on the woke definition of racism. Even based on that, this is racist. It's saying the mechanics of the policy. By explicitly rejecting color blindness, the policy mandates that police must use race as a determining factor in their frameworks and operations rather than treating everyone as individuals under a single standard. And the impact, focusing on equality of outcome, often termed equity, requires a system to test people unequally in practice to balance out broad statistical disparities. Because the system is actively engineering advantages or specific allocations for minority groups, it inherently applies a different, structurally less favorable standard to white majority. While proponents justify this as equity or correcting historical imbalances, from a purely structural and procedural standpoint, it is a policy that applies different rules and systemic disadvantages to white people based entirely on their race. Oh, look at this. Samantha is saying, justice for Henry Nowak. Love you, Samantha. There you go. Can we get back to Piers? Okay.
And this police officer should be questioned and asked, why, oh, why did you not believe a stabbed, dying, bleeding?
Before I continue this, wasn't that helpful that I went through this AI stuff, or was that boring for you guys? I was doing fact checking for you guys. I think it was very educational. I learned a lot, and thank you for the super chats. I tested your claims, and it was pretty good. Did you guys find that part helpful and educational, or would you just rather me just focus on the videos that I'm playing?
Secondly, I think all of us are saying the same thing, is that some of these police officers, they should be held accountable for their actions. I believe there should be full investigation, and this police officer should be questioned and asked, why, oh, why did you not believe a stabbed, dying, bleeding man? Why were the last words that he heard is, I don't believe you, mate. That is horrific. Third, and I think this is where we should listen to the words of Henry's father. I want to quote him. Henry's father said, quote, "We want to use Henry's heartbreaking story to make change for the..."
Wait, I need to go. Holy shit, I'm fucking late. I wasn't even paying attention. Okay, I'm going to read another super chat. Fleshy Interloper, thank you so much for the super chat. Oh my God, guys, what the hell? I have only 8 minutes before Iran Revolution Live. Shit. Sorry, guys. We're going to finish the rest of this later, okay? Make sure you come see me there. Like in 8 minutes, we're going to go there live in 8 minutes. Thank you, guys. Love you guys. I'm Israel Chai, Slava Ukrainia, Cuba Libre, Long Live America, Javid Shah, Payande Iran. See you guys soon. See you guys in 8 minutes. Bye.